I'm back to the session that I originally got from the record and mix template, and this one is 24 plus EQ plus dynamics plus effects returns. So I'll just cancel out of this. I brought back some library music that we worked with earlier. Ignore this master for a second. A while ago, we said, well, if no track is in the red in our session, it's possible to add them all together and to go in the red. But if I only have one piece of music here, is it possible for this fader to be all the way down and still get us into the red? So let's listen. Yeah, it is. Because this master has a bunch of limiters on it. Now, you would never, ever put 5 of them in a row like this. You choose one and not the others. But I wanted to open them up to show you that this compressor limiter, which is, by the way, on every single track in this template, now it's on the master. So what are we really doing here? We've compressed presumably a little bit on each track in our session, the right amount. And then we get to the master and we say, well, that wasn't enough. We're going to actually limit the master too. And so if we think of this whole range as the dynamic range, the softest parts and the loudest parts, compression is going to squeeze from both sides and reduce the dynamic range to something like that, or depending on how aggressive we are, just a tiny little bit. So it's going to raise the volume of the soft parts and lower the volume of the loud parts and give us less of a dynamic range. Pop music these days is mixed this way. There are articles about the loudness factor, and it's a vibrant discussion in the audio community right now, whether this is a good thing to have all of our music slamming us in the face or whether there should be more of a dynamic range like we used to have. But that's what we're talking about here is how aggressive is your mix. So if you look at a simple limiter, this is a clean limiter, it's starting here at the top and its threshold is about -5 and it has a fairly significant compression ratio, meaning that whatever is being acted on by the compressor is getting compressed a lot. 20 to 1 is pretty aggressive, but it's really only having a tiny effect. If we move down to a gentle limiting, now it's 100 to 1, a little less of a threshold. Here it's moving generally this way, so now it's -10. Here it's -18. And so you can see what's happening here is that we're kind of carving out more of the dynamic range. And by the time we get to pump, we've sort of flattened this whole thing out so that the very soft stuff is now being amplified a lot. And the very loud stuff isn't presumably loud at all. So a threshold of -45, a compression ratio of 10 to 1. You have several settings in here for how aggressive you want to be with this. So I would start at the least setting and work your way to the more aggressive settings if you feel like you need that. But when you get to pump, you're actually going to hear the compressor working on the track and it's going to suck the life out of it. It'll just change the entire dynamic range of the piece. So let me mute. Just going to control or Windows click on everything but the first limiter and take a listen. So that's a good discussion to have with your pals about whether we want to actually compress the 2 mix or not. I would say it also depends on whether you plan to master or not. If you're mixing and this is the final output, then I think some compression is probably advisable. If you're going to a mastering engineer and you use up all the headroom, you're locking your mastering engineer's ability to do his job. The mastering engineer might want to EQ something, which, if there's no headroom, might clip the signal. So if you're mastering, leave about 6 dB of headroom for your master. If you're mastering, you shouldn't compress a lot because the mastering compressor probably has a better multi-channel compressor than you do, probably has better monitors than you do. And if you compress a lot, you're killing the dynamics, and that's part of a mastering engineer's job. This template is very handy when you have a rainy day sometime. Set up one of these templates the way you like it. Go ahead and save it as a template in your templates. And then you can pull this up at the beginning of a project, record into this session, put all your audio in these empty tracks. Notice they give you mono tracks up here, stereo tracks below. You can think of them as empty vessels that you fill with your project. And it's really handy if you're tracking a bunch of songs by the same band. Set up your tracks. When you've tracked the first piece, save it before you do this, and then erase all the audio, save that as a template, and now you're ready for the next song by that same band.